when I was really young, and my dad was still working on his EED, and I didn't know all that was involved in that, but I could see as a little kid living on Wolverton Avenue how he went out and organized and sent out these things to different people so he could conduct a survey, and he had these survey responses spread all around our dining room table one summer, and he had other things spread around, and it seemed like he was always busy working on this thing, trying to get it done, even though that wasn't his job. His job was working at Moore Park College at the time. But he seemed really preoccupied, and then after all that, he went back. We went back one April day for his graduation up in Provo, and we watched our dad go through the line with his cap and gown and get his diploma. Now at the time, I was probably too young other than to focus on the fact that we were up in Utah and it was snowing that morning, like for the first time I'd ever seen in my life. But over time, that formed kind of a backdrop in my mind. Yes, my dad worked really hard and got his graduate degree, and that affected his career in a positive way. And that shaped my planning and my thinking, even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. When I started college, I said to myself, well, I know that if I want to become a doctor, I know if I want to go to certain graduate schools in different areas that I probably need good grades. So I'm going to be working hard at getting good grades, because I'm not just going to go get a bachelor's degree. I have to prepare myself for my graduate degree.
Awesome, you can catch up to her. Keep going. All right. Woo! One of my earliest memories was of my father driving me to some remote hills where all I can remember is it was really dry and there was some white chalk painted on the ground, and we waited for sweaty men to come running by looking for the blue shirts. Those were our men. We wanted them to be ahead. And Dad explained to me that there was some kind of point system, that we would get better points or less points so we could win the race, the cross-country race, if our men came first. And I remember Dad yelling at these sweaty men as they went by. He also had binoculars to track their activities. Great job, Brinkman! One more mile, keep going! Catch up to that guy ahead of you. You got him! He's hurting, you got him! Good job, Brinkman!
The Dirty 11, as we used to think of ourselves, we were a bunch of heathens, and Coach was a Latter-day Saint who lived the gospel and tried to teach us and by example and precept. And a lot of the guys were drinkers, and I do confess, Coach, that I had a couple of beers one time at the Fresno Relays.
Nah, not you.
In fact, we had a whole bathtub full of beer at the Fresno Relays, but I only had a couple because I wasn't much of a drinker. But very patient, very kind. With his standards, he could have thrown all of us off the team and gone back to Sunday school, but he was very loving and kind and gentle. And in later years, that came back to bless our lives greatly.
I enjoyed winning. I was very competitive, and I enjoyed winning. I enjoyed going from a college that only had 800 students to being the top school in Southern California. In fact, one of the tops in the state, real quickly. And I enjoyed going into a meet and hear people groan when they heard that we were coming. But winning was easy, so I don't know. Every time I ever got to any place where I coached, winning became real easy. Then it was like, well, so what?
Gary was very successful coaching at Moore Park College, but he didn't like it very well. And so he went, after 4 years of coaching, he went back to being a counselor and a teacher of PE. Then in 1974, they were starting another college in Oxnard. Gary wanted to move to the new college because he thought he might have a better opportunity for moving up into administration, which was what his doctorate was in, and he kind of wanted to try it. And so he left Moore Park College after 8 years and started at the new college at Oxnard. And he especially liked the idea of the fact that there were going to be lots of minority kids coming there, and he really loved working with minority kids and trying to help them get an education.
I first met Gary, I think it was on a Saturday, as I recall. We were going to go looking for a place for us to live. So we started in Moore Park. The first place we went to, it was this old white lady in Moore Park. So we stayed in the car. Gary went up to the door and says, I have some students that are looking for the place and bring them up. So the woman said, okay, well, let's talk, bring them in. So the four of us got out the car. She said, I didn't know they were black. So Gary said, what difference they make? Well, it's my neighbors, sir, it's not me. I don't have no problem with people, with colored folk. That was the term back then, colored folk. But my neighbors, they wouldn't like that. So Gary got really mad. In fact, he talked about, I'm gonna call the Fair Housing Authority, blah, blah. We said, Brinkman, don't worry about it.
Soon after arriving at Oxnard College, Gary was made Dean of Admissions and Records. And when they were, Oxnard College at first was just in a storefront. And then they started building some buildings, and Gary was able to design the area of the building where the admissions and records were going to be. And he did a lot of study and preparation and designed that office so that it would be very convenient. And even after almost 30 years of being in existence, that same area is there. After being Dean of Admissions and Records, he became Dean of Counseling, or Head Counselor, and he soon had them organized into a very efficient counseling organization. And then he moved from there to being Dean of Students. And he was in charge of he started the first police department there. He did, he was in charge of all the student activities, the counseling, anything that had to do with student life, he was in charge of. And it kept him very busy, and he really liked it, except that it took him away from the students. And after having been vice president for a while, he stepped down and went back to counseling and teaching. And he really enjoyed that more so because he had contact with the students again. His interest was always in helping students. And when politics became part of the college, he didn't want any part of it. And he wanted to use his time to serve students and was always thinking of ways that he might be able to help them to do better in their work and in their studies and to have an enjoyable experience in their college life.
So the beginning part of my memories of my father and his career were of him as an administrator, as a big shot, the big important guy on campus. And I was there, and I remember vividly when he left administration and went back to just being a teacher and a counselor, which was kind of a blow to him, but at the same time, I think he liked that better. I know that he enjoyed the systems and the people he was able to set up and help and get things running smoothly at Oxnard College in administration. But I think his first loves were teaching and counseling, where he got to help people one-on-one. Those are the things that were most important to him. And so it didn't bother him all that much that he wasn't going to be a big shot anymore. That wasn't what he was really into. And it kind of taught me, as his kid watching all this, that being the big shot wasn't that big a deal. That the people were the important thing in the equation, no matter what you were doing. And that as long as you were able to emphasize the people and to make their lives better, then you'd be happy and that things would be taken care of. You didn't need to be the big shot. I think that's had a big impact on me. I haven't, it's not that I haven't wanted to excel at what I do, it's that I haven't felt the need to be a more important person than other people. And I think that gives me a lot of peace in my life, that I'm not looking around to other people to try to get above them or to beat them out. I'm more happy in my own little world as long as I'm able to contribute in ways that are meaningful and significant to me.